Mandela Theatre production there here at the Nyoloho Catholic Church in Sebokeng, Zone 12, opposite the post office. One of those puppets looks vaguely familiar, but I won't go into detail with regard to that. We're here, of course, to mark the Vaal Uprisings that took place today, the 3rd of September, back in 1984. A little bit earlier, just before the break, we spoke to Mama Teresa, and I tell you, the song and dance from the puppets can easily mask away or hide the pain that still runs very deep in the hearts of many South Africans who helped to play a part or fought in the liberation of this country. Mama Teresa expressing her own personal views on how she feels about various races here in South Africa. I think for us it's just evident that there still needs to be a lot of reconciliation taking place, that we still need to speak about some of the issues that plague us, and many people have yet to forgive. But I must also bring to fore that it was both black and white people and other races too that helped liberate South Africa. I mean, when we think of the white people who participated in the liberation struggle of South Africa, you think of Mama Ruth First and also the likes of Beyers Naudé. The number is endless. So just to put things in perspective, but I think it was very symbolic to just bring that interview for you a little bit earlier to show exactly what some people are dealing with, the scars that will not heal, that we hope will heal very soon. One of the gentlemen who also participated in the emancipation of our country, someone who went to Robben Island at the age of 19. Can you believe it? The gentleman who joins me now is Thabiso Ratsomo. He's a veteran of the struggle from this particular area in the Vaal, as well as nationally. He's the founder of the Vaal Civic Association that led the Vaal Uprising, or participated in it at least in 1984. I must read this because it's quite an accomplished record when it talks about his struggle credentials. He was one of the early Robben Island prisoners, like I said, in 1977, and part of the Delmas Treason Trialists, along with your Popo Molefe, Lekota, Gcina Malindi, Rev Moselane, Aubrey Mokoena. He's going to speak to us now about how the Delmas trial has linked to what happened today. Ntate, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
Let's talk now about the waves that swept through the country in terms of uprisings and the arrest of various prisoners. Delmas trial versus what we're talking today. What's the link?
Well, the Delmas trial is one of the last trials that the apartheid regime put through because it could no longer govern the country. The country had become ungovernable, particularly after the unrest in the Vaal in 1984. And because somebody had to be blamed for what happened in the Vaal, they arrested a number of us from a purely localized protest march against high rent increases in the Vaal to making a case, a treason trial case. And the crux of the matter was that the VCA, together with the UDF, were in conspiracy with the ANC and the South African Communist Party to overthrow the government violently. That's where the treason trial came from. But essentially, it is true that after September 3, 1984, South Africa never became the same, because immediately after that, the whole country, people saw what happened on TV on that day, and the whole country emulated the same things that happened in the Vaal. And from that time up to 1990, you can see that a number of things have happened. For instance, we know that in 1985, P.W. Botha offered to release Nelson Mandela. We know that in 1987, a number of prominent Afrikaners began to go around and met the ANC in exile, because it was quite clear that nothing will happen to the country without the involvement of the ANC. We know that in 1989, the ANC itself drafted the Harare Declaration, which paved the way for the emancipation of South Africa. And more or less at the same time, Govan Mbeki, Walter Sisulu were released from prison. These are people who were sent to life imprisonment. And life at that time meant life, your whole life in prison. But they were being released. And eventually in 1990, we know that Nelson Mandela was released. And the country began now to enter into an arena of negotiations from that time.
Do you think this is a forgotten part of South Africa's history, that perhaps the participation of the Vaal and the various townships in the Vaal Triangle, that's been overlooked over the years?
I'm not sure that I want to say overlooked per se, but I would say the Vaal protest march was really a turning point in the country, as I said, because things changed after that. But it is equally sad to say, if you say it's forgotten, because the same things that led to the formation of the Vaal Civic Association, untarred roads, lack of facilities, you still find them today. And the Vaal has not really improved as it should. I think it has also not occupied the kind of space that it should, both provincially and nationally, and for what happened, and for its own legacy. Because remember that if you go back, for instance, in 1956, for instance, the Everton Azikwela in 1956, where people played a very gallant role, the Sharpeville shooting of 1960 and so on, 1984. So the Vaal as an area does have a rich history, for instance, of involvement in the struggle, and it is true that it is not occupying that space nationally. Even if you look at the level of, for instance, the provincial government, both provincial government or the ANC leadership, for instance, at the province, you hardly find people from the Vaal. I'm not sure whether it is out of their own doing or whether it's a neglect of the area itself.
We'll have to leave it there. We have run out of time. I wanted to speak to you about active citizenry here and talk about the militancy of some of the people in the township with regard to your involvement as a founder member of the Vaal Civic Association. But we'll have to leave that conversation for a later stage. Thank you so much for joining us and for your experience and what you've shared with us today. Thank you so much. And let's leave it there for now. We continue with this outside broadcast. You stay with Morning Live. A quick ad break right now. We continue after this.